Namaste and Jai Swaminarayan. It's a privilege and honor for me to welcome our honorable guest, His Excellency Dr. Omar Al Mutanna, CEO of Community Development Authority Dubai, and Pujya Brahmavihari Swamiji from the BAPS Hindu Mandir. Welcome. Last month, we had an amazing webinar on leading consciously, which was attended by more than 5,000 people from across 35 countries. Each one of us are leaders in our own way. And Pujya Brahmavihari Swamiji guided us on how to lead consciously by showing compassion. Let's begin today's session by recapping the last webinar, Leading Consciously.
I would like to share with you that leadership is not about making a change to the world. Leadership is about making a change to your own environment. But each one of us is a leader in the circle of our influence. That's what His Holiness Pramukh Swami Maharaj often said, that wherever you are and whatever you are doing, remember, you have the power to influence everybody around you. It means not just living our lives, but the ability of giving our lives. Leadership is not just about greatness, it's about goodness. Each one of us is capable of being good. Leadership is not just about achievements, it's about attitude. Each one of us can change our attitude. Leadership is not just about rights, it's about responsibilities. Each one of us knows what our responsibility is. Leadership is not just about success, it's about inner satisfaction. It's not just the huge public events, it's also the small private moments that give us the deeper satisfaction of life. So leading consciously is more about leading our own lives. And leading consciously, in the words of a great management thinker, is that when you are about to become a leader, you grow. And when you have become a leader, you help others grow. And that's why His Holiness Pramukh Swami Maharaj often says that the way to lead consciously is by generating joy for others. In the joy of others lies our own. In the good of others lies our own. And in the progress of others lies our own.
It was an amazing experience. What insights! Truly, Brahmavihari Swamiji is a transformational thinker. It's a great honor for me to introduce Pujya Brahmavihari Swamiji, the inspirational saint overseeing the development of BAPS Hindu Mandir in Abu Dhabi. At the outset, let me speak about my own personal interaction with Swamiji. This is about 10 years back in Abu Dhabi. One of my good friends, Ashwini Lada, told me that Swamiji is in Abu Dhabi and he's here to do puja at your house. I said, what an opportunity. I welcomed him to my house. He did puja and spent 15 minutes talking about life's values. To this day, I remember them. Pujya Brahmavihari Swamiji was born in Leicester, United Kingdom. He has a highly brilliant educational background and was offered scholarship by Oxford University to study medicine. He was initiated to sainthood by his guru Pramukh Swami Maharaj in 1981 at the age of 16. He then studied Eastern and Western philosophy, Sanskrit, and world religions. He's an astounding orator and writer. He's serving as a senior sadhu, leading various key departments of BAPS Swaminarayan Sanstha internationally. He was also a part of the core team that designed and made two Akshardham temples in Gandhinagar and New Delhi. He is currently heading the BAPS Hindu Mandir project, the first in the UAE. His topic today is leading super consciously. I now welcome Pujya Brahmavihari Swamiji to come and enlighten us on how a leader can multiply himself and lead like many leaders.
Shri Swaminarayan Bhagwanani Jai. अक्षर पुरुषोत्तम महाराजनी जय, राधा कृष्ण देवनी जय, सियावर रामचंद्र भगवाननी जय, उमापति महादेवनी जय, गुरु हरि प्रमुख स्वामी महाराजनी जय, गुरु हरि महंत स्वामी महाराजनी जय, प्रमुख स्वामी महाराज शताब्दी महोत्सवनी जय. Earlier we have explored how leaders can lead consciously. But if the very same leaders wanted to lead super consciously, how can they do that? We must understand that control is not leadership. Pure management is not leadership. Definitely statistics are not leadership. Leadership is simply leadership. If you want to lead, you must invest more than 50% of your time in yourself, in trying to sharpen your purpose, redefining your values, until we generate a consciousness that appeals to every living things. Because leadership is not about leading things, it is about leading living things. When we generate that awareness and that compassion and that understanding, naturally people will be inspired by our presence. But how can these leaders who lead consciously begin to lead super consciously? How can they become bigger than themselves? Simply by not limiting themselves to themselves. Many successful leaders begin to limit themselves to themselves. They create a bubble of their own opinions and experiences, and they never step outside of it. Sometimes they isolate themselves in the cold storage of superiority, and such leaders lose their way. There's a detailed research that came out in 2011 by Harvard University, done by Bill George. And one of the reasons he writes why leaders lose their way is that such leaders, they surround themselves by sycophants. And such leaders begin to celebrate themselves and not the success that they have generated. And such leaders are so opinionated that people find it difficult to tell them the truth. They always tell them what they want to hear, and hence such leaders become distant from the truth. It is impossible for them to have an honest dialogue, let alone a truthful appraisal. When leaders lose touch of truth, they lose their way. Leaders who really become super conscious are not the leaders who are arrogant, but they are humble. They are open-minded. And one of the things these leaders do is they look beyond themselves. They seek inspirations from the great minds of the past. Such leaders are so open-minded that they follow the dictum of what our Mahabharata has said. Mahajano yena gataha sapantha. Follow in the footsteps of the great people of the past. And yes, real leaders who become bigger than themselves are those who continue to seek inspirations from the great minds of the past. We all know that Martin Luther King has been an inspiration for so many people. But Martin Luther King himself says that he was inspired by Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi often said that he was inspired by Leo Tolstoy. Leo Tolstoy himself agrees that he was deeply inspired by Henry David Thoreau. And very often Henry David Thoreau says that the Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishads played an important role in his way of thinking. As you can see, it is not just limited to the political or the social field. Take medicine. Doctors have been inspired by great doctors of the past. Take art or architecture. In fact, take the spiritual world. The spiritual world is founded on the idea of Guru Shishya relationships. That gurus seek inspirations of the great gurus of the past. Pramukh Swami Maharaj often said that the great saints and sages of the past have paved a path for us, and we should follow in their footsteps and continue to seek guidance from their every word and inspiration. Never for once he forgot the great contributions of his gurus, Shastriji Maharaj and Yogiji Maharaj, as part of his personal life. Once when he was asked that how does this global BAPS Sanstha run, very humbly Pramukh Swami Maharaj said that it runs by the sankalp and the vision of my gurus of the past. He often said that I have nothing new to say. All the guidance that has been given by Shastriji Maharaj, I simply reveal to the world. When gurus and the great people of today continue to seek inspirations from the great minds of the past, they become bigger than themselves. But such leaders who are paving the path to superconscious leadership are leaders who seek inspirations from the simplest minds of the present. Take any great successful man or woman. If he or she has achieved a great height, it is because they continue to appreciate the smaller people who have played a part in their story of success. In 2019, Sachin Tendulkar, who is considered in India as the god of cricket, who has broken many records during his lifetime, he once tweeted that in 2001, one hotel staff had inspired Sachin Tendulkar to play better cricket, and he would want to personally thank him. Instantly, netizens were all around and they discovered the man. His name, S. Guru Prasad. He was a security guard in Taj Hotel in Chennai. When Sachin Tendulkar was going into an elevator, the guard, who was a fan of Sachin Tendulkar, approached him for an autograph. And finding him so casual and comforting, he said, "If you don't mind, I would like to make a suggestion." And you know what the suggestion was? He said, "I've seen you and watched you play cricket, but you are uncomfortable with your elbow guard. If you can redesign or refashion it, perhaps you'll be able to make better wrist movements and swing the bat better." Instantly, Sachin realized this and he says that from that day, I refashioned my elbow guard and it made a difference to the cricket I played. Great people continue to seek inspirations even from the simplest minds of today. Be the child. His Holiness Pramukh Swami Maharaj, once a child completely unknown, left a small note in the park of Pramukh Swami Maharaj after a huge festival in Bochasan. And Pramukh Swami kept that note with him. And you know what that note was? In that note, the child had said, "The Swamiji, that your asan was so high on the stage that I found it difficult to touch your feet." Pramukh Swami took that note and placed it in the main trustee board at a trustees meeting in Bochasan. And then said that make sure after a festival, my asan is always as low as possible so even a child can reach me and I can reach him. Even a child can be an inspiration to an institution so vast and big. I remember in Ahmedabad once, one postcard arrived from a complete stranger. And Pramukh Swami gave that postcard to the sadhus and said that he has an issue, why don't you solve it? When the sadhus started frantically searching for that person, nobody could really find him. After a couple of days of searching, they did find the man. He was not a Swaminarayan, and he was not a religious man at all. And when that man was found and we asked him to come and see Pramukh Swami, he had written in that postcard that whenever you arrive, we find it difficult to park our scooters because there are so many vehicles all around the temple. So please, can you take care of that? So Pramukh Swami apologized to him and said that if you find it difficult Please let us know. We will make arrangements. But that man casually said, Swamiji, no, I don't have a scooter anymore. It was something that I had experienced almost 10 years ago when I had a scooter. Now I have a car. There is no issue. But because I saw so many vehicles outside the temple, I thought that you might be here. So I just casually wrote a postcard. I have no issues right now. Still, Pramukh Swami said that you had an issue once. Thank you for bringing it to our notice. Since that day onwards, Swamiji has always made it a point that wherever he goes, that no neighbors or no local people find any difficulties, whether it's with traffic, whether it's with noise, whether it's anything that could be done to make their lives more comfortable. So even a child's plea or a simple postcard from a stranger is enough to initiate a change in an institution led by a great leader, because such leaders are super conscious. But super consciousness does not just limit ourselves to the great minds of the past or the simple people of the present, but the ability to connect to the universal energies. Leaders who are immortal and leaders who are bigger than their own stature are in one way or another connected to the divine energy of God. How many times we have heard that Abraham Lincoln, even in the middle of the Civil War, you would find him sitting on a horse and praying deeply to God. He often said that, "Sir, my concern is not whether God is on our side or not, but my concern is whether we are on God's side, because God is always right." His idea and irrefutable faith in the will of God made him stronger than ever. Mahatma Gandhi, one of the founding fathers of India, often said that prayer saved my life. Without prayer, I would have been a lunatic long ago. I had my share of the bitterest public and private experiences. They threw me in temporary despair, and if I was saved from them, it was because of prayer. Prayer became a necessity. So prayer has been important to almost every leader who has made a difference to this world. To give a current example, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, who was one of the finest scientists that India has ever produced, the most loved president of India, himself was not just an engineer, not just a team leader, not just an innovator, not just an inventor, but he himself was a conscious and a super conscious leader. He often said, and has written in his book Transcendence, that I learned the value of truth from Galileo. I learned the value of reasoning from Socrates. I learned the value of equality from Lincoln. I learned the value of non-violence from Mahatma Gandhi. I learned the value of compassion from Buddha. I learned the value of forgiveness from Nelson Mandela. But I learned the value of faith in God from His Holiness Pramukh Swami Maharaj, who became my ultimate teacher. It was during 2001 when Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, as the Chief Scientific Advisor to the Prime Minister of India, came to meet His Holiness Pramukh Swami Maharaj. He had come with a beautiful and an elaborate blueprint for India 2020. He told Swamiji that I, with almost 500 experts from different fields and great thinkers, have almost spent 1 year trying to figure out in which fields India should grow to become a developed nation by 2020. But prophetically he said that all of us believe that if India has to grow, it must grow in 5 different fields. One is health and education. Second is agriculture. Third is communication and information technology. Fourth is infrastructure. And fifth is critical technology like genetic engineering, medical technology, nanotechnology. As you can see, year 2020 literally focused on these 5 areas. Well, health became important, education of our children became more important, IT and communication kept us linked together as a global family, infrastructure for transferring medicines and all these people and everything became very important. And of course, agriculture, so far as organic food is concerned, has suddenly taken, the highest importance in our lives. And also critical technology, the ability to create vaccines, genetic engineering, ability to keep ourselves safe. So ultimately, all those 5 fields have really grown in importance. But Pramukh Swami Maharaj told him in his Gujarati, while Dr. Kalam presented everything, Swami said, Dr. Kalam, something is missing. And curiously and a little suspiciously, he looked up at Swami and Swami said, please tell Dr. Kalam કે કંઈક ખૂટે છે. આ 5માં એક છઠ્ઠું ઉમેરો. Add a 6th field, faith in God. Without faith in God, how will we produce people who are morally upright and spiritually bright? Without having a nation full of people who have character and caliber, infrastructure alone will not be able to create a great nation. The worth of a country is measured by the quality of the people. Dr. Kalam accepted that, and as the President of India, wherever he went, whether it was China, Sri Lanka, Scotland, or the European Parliament, he made sure that he made this point that faith in God is equally important for the development of not just a nation, but the people and humanity as a race. So, real leaders who are super conscious are not just connected to the people of the past or the people of the present, but they are connected from within to the energies of God. And when you have such leaders give us direction that make a difference not just to our lives, but to everyone around us. So in true fact, leadership is about leading from within. And when you have that power to lead from within, you generate an influence wherever you are. Whether you are at home or in office, whether you are in the playing field, or whether you are just with friends, or whether you are just alone with nobody, as long as you lead consciously and super consciously, you are connected with everybody. And when you are connected in this deeper way, you make a difference, not just to the people around you, but to your own self within yourself. And such leaders are naturally followed and sought out for. They are not leaders that need to advertise themselves. Maybe such leaders may not be in the history books as we have discussed before, but such leaders shall live immortally in the hearts of the people. If you are a good father or a great mother, if you are a loyal friend, if you are a person who is compassionate and helps everybody, you already have a permanent place in the people who you influence. Perhaps this example from the great Mahabharata will help summarize everything that we have just discussed. Just as Yudhishthir was planning for a great Rajasuya Yagna, a great ceremony and a ritual that would declare to the world that he is invincible. And while all the preparations were being done, and thousands of people had gathered, kings from different places, great thinkers and leaders and experts from society, that's when Yudhishthir just tells everybody that before I give you a go-ahead, let me go and take advice from Lord Krishna. Suddenly a group of people approach Yudhishthir and say that, but why do you need to talk to Lord Krishna? Because in the scheme of the entire war, Krishna did not have a title or a position. He was a simple charioteer. Krishna was not a king like many other kings who had great armies and great presence. So a leader without a title or a position, and why would Yudhishthir go down to Krishna and ask for even whether he should conduct this Rajasuya Yagna or not? That's when Yudhishthir turns to the people and says, Kechit hi sauradat na dosham parichakshate artha hetuhu tatheva anye priyameva vadanti. Yudhishthir turns to the flock of people and he says that amongst you there are some who are my deepest friends And you love me so deeply that even if you knew the truth, and if it was going to hurt me, you would not tell me the truth to protect my emotions. Friends can never tell you the bitter truth. And yes, amongst you, some of you are my worst enemies. And because you hate me, you will tell me that you are telling me the truth and you'll still lie to me. Enemies can never tell the truth. And amongst you, there are those who are my elders, who love me and respect me, and who literally wish well for me, but they do not know what is really good for me because of their limitation of knowledge. And yes, amongst you, there are the knowledgeable, the intelligent people who know everything, but they too are filled with greed, lust, jealousy, avarice. So, because they are impure, whatever advice they will give me will not be pure hearted and may not really guide me. And yes, amongst you, there are those who are truly well meaning, but they themselves also want to do well. So there is this tinge of selfishness. That's why they cannot tell me the complete truth, the whole truth that will really guide me. It is Krishna who is completely selfless, who is beyond the selfish motives of this world, who is desireless. There is nothing I can give him that he would want. And Krishna, who is always truthful. Krishna, who not just loves me, but he knows me. He knows my past, present, and future, and yet accepts me and trusts me. And Lord Krishna, he is willing to tell me the truth, even if it hurts me. That's why I continue to go to Lord Krishna to seek advice. Such leaders, even amongst human beings, who are not just conscious but super conscious, they rise beyond the limitations of this world. Such leaders, they become limitless and they are timeless. So today, as we have discussed that we should lead consciously and with the connection of God, we should lead super consciously. I pray for everybody, wherever you are, whatever you are doing, whatever challenges that you are facing, whether it's personal or public, may God really guide each one of us and turn each one of us, wherever you may be, into a leader that influences everybody around you positively. Remember, your smiles at your home, your brightness in your office, your frankness while playing a game, and your jovial nature whenever you meet your friends and people around you does generate a spark of positivity and is a symbol of you leading consciously and super consciously. Thank you and Jai Swaminarayan.
Swamiji, thank you for your motivational and inspirational thoughts on leading super consciously. It really inspired me. I like personally the point where you explained that a super conscious leader not only gets inspired from the past leader, but also learns from simple people of the present and is connected with God. Faith in God is key here. Now, I would like to call upon Pranav Desai to take the lead on the question and answer session with Brahmavihari Swamiji.
Thank you, Padmanabhanji. I also agree. We had an amazing session by Pujya Brahmavihari Swamiji on leading super consciously. We have received many questions from viewers from many countries. So let me start the question and answer session with you, Swamiji, by taking the first question from Vishal Bhai, who has made a good point. His question is, what makes one a strong leader? A leader who is inspired by other leaders, or a leader who inspires other leaders? Seeking inspiration from others will compromise his individual unique leadership. Will it not make him a weak leader?
Nope, not at all. I think seeking inspirations from other leaders does not make one a weak leader. It does not make one weaker. In fact, it makes one stronger, better, and bigger. In no way does it diminish our leadership. Actually, it replenishes it. Look, Vishal, this is a great question. I mean, intellectually, we can talk about individual unique leadership, but practically, you can only lead in a team together. Of course, intellectually, we can think about living individually, but if you want to survive, we can only survive collectively. The issue here is not about being a strong leader or a weak leader. It's about being a good leader. A good leader is all about inclusiveness. How many people, how many ideas, how many different ways of thoughts and traditions can you include and generate a oneness that takes people or your team forward? It's not about individual achievements or exclusivity. It's not about just developing oneself. It's about developing the whole team as an organic organization. Just look at history. History tells us that individually, man is weak. We are nothing. It's almost impossible for man to survive individually. Just look around. Man individually is not the fastest. A cheetah is far faster. Man is not the strongest. A bull is much stronger. In fact, man is not the most fearless species on this earth. A lion is more fearless. So, of course, we are not the fastest, we are not the strongest, and we are not the most fearless. And yet, together, because collectively we've connected, we've created a human race and a consciousness that man or human beings as a species technically rules or dominates the world. Individually, we are nothing. Collectively, we are everything. So a good leader is an inclusive leader that or who can generate a collective energy of everyone. So when you seek inspirations from not just leaders of the past, but from everyone, a leader who hears people, understands them, and then generates a common will. So I strongly believe that when you seek inspirations from everyone and almost everything around you, it just adds. Bhagavan Swaminathan often said that to keep insisting that what you have is the best is not a good form of leadership, but to invite what is good and best in everyone else and in everything else turns you into a mature, good leader. And I believe that's how the human race has grown. We stand today upon the shoulders of past generations. The great thinkers, the inventors and leaders of the past, they've given us a lot of knowledge, a lot of great ideas and things that we have built upon. Do we really want to reinvent the wheel? That would take ages. Do we really want to reinvent the light bulb? It has been given to us. Can we not just build upon that? So just as we can share our strength and our space and grow as a human civilization, we can also share our knowledge and become wiser and more super conscious species. And a good super conscious leader would seek inspirations from everyone and everything. A beautiful example would probably subserve the idea that I'm trying to convey. The idea is that once we trust others, learn from the mistakes of others, and make sure that we'll build upon the experiences of others, we grow into a better leader. One very close friend of ours, a great thinker, himself a good leader, his name Dashrath Patel. He was a maverick creative art designer. For decades, almost 2 decades, he had remained the director of NID, National Institute of Design, one of the most famous schools of design in India. He often told us that whenever a new batch of students arrived in the institution, he would take, as the director, the first class. And then he would tell all these young creative thinkers who are really trained to think out of the box, he would tell them, welcome to the NID. This is perhaps the finest institute of design in the whole of India. If you want to learn design the way you want to, and if you want to develop your ideas the way just you want to individually, this is your first year in the design school. But if you want to develop design the way I guide you, or if you want to learn the secrets of design the way I teach you, this is your 21st year in the Institute of Design. Because I have 20 years of experience which I can share with you. So don't just think that we are living in 2021 and we are just here for the last 40 years or 50 years. If we trust the great leaders and thinkers of the past, seek inspirations from them, then we are as old as mankind. As mankind keeps building through strength after strength, through knowledge after knowledge, through wisdom after wisdom, perfecting our values from every other leader, it just makes us stronger. And as leaders, I'm not telling you that just pick up every inspiration that comes to you. No. Learn from the great values, learn from the great leaders. But more importantly, just as if a simple tribe talks about the great tales of the past leaders, a king or a queen is groomed by the stories of courage and valor of the past kings and queens. We grow upon the inspirations from past leaders. But all these inspirations have to be aligned. Understand one thing which is a simple law of life. 2 hands are better than 1. 4 hands are better than 2. 50 hands are better than 4. And of course, 100 or 1,000 hands get things done faster and better, so long as they are aligned, pushing in the right direction, doing the same thing. If they are counterproductive, if you take ideas which are counterproductive, then you will not move ahead. So align yourself or align the great inspirations to the visions that you have, and you will become a much stronger and much better leader. In short, I believe it's not about being an individual exclusive leader. It's about being an inclusive leader where you can change the lens of your life. If you change the lens of your life, you will find inspiration from anything and everything. I strongly believe that even if you look at a newborn baby, it does not even know how to walk. It cannot even talk. It hasn't achieved anything, and it cannot promise you anything. It's weak, frail. Its existence depends upon you and other things around you. And yet, when you look at a newborn baby, which can't talk or walk, cannot do anything, yet when it smiles at you, it gives you confidence. You can be inspired by a newborn baby because you can see how much it trusts, how much hope it has, how much loving or innocent it is. If a newborn baby that has no track record can inspire you and me in the field of trust, love, and innocence, then surely the great thinkers and leaders of the past inspire you. So let us all become not just great leaders, but good leaders by continuing to learn from everyone and changing the lens of our life into a positive outlook.
Swamiji, thank you for your guidance here. I understood that yes, we need to learn and get inspired from other leaders. And at the same time, we should align their ideas with what we want to achieve. Swamiji, you gave the example of Mr. Dashrath Bhai Patel from NID that explained your point so easily. Let me take the second question from Ashish Bhai. Swamiji, Ashish Bhai is asking, I have read that we need a teacher or a guru in many stages of life, from school to sports to arts and music. How important is it for a leader to have a spiritual guru? And what makes him a better leader?
100% if you believe that leadership is about leading lives and individuals. If you excel in every field or in every way, it helps a leader to become a better leader. Suppose I ask you, if a leader has good health, will it help him? Yes, of course. If a leader is intelligent, does it help him? Yes. If a leader possesses the skill of analysis, of course it will help him. If a leader is a great communicator, communication helps a leader. If a leader is patient, a value helps a leader. If a leader is very well educated, it doesn't harm, it helps. So if you think leadership is a complete process that helps other individuals in their lives, then everything is like an extra feather in the cap. The more qualities, the more values, the more abilities a leader possesses, the greater his ability to lead people. So obviously, to have a spiritual guru helps a leader. Let's look at life. In our modern day life, we have accepted the need of teachers in every stage and every sphere. But first, do we or do we not accept that life is not just a physical dimension? Physical dimension is important in life, our body, our health, our diet, the exercises that we do. That's important. And that's why in this world we have teachers for almost every field in physical dimension. We have a gym instructor, we would have a health coach, we have a dietitian who takes care of diets, we would have doctors who treat us. They are like almost medical gurus. We have in school teachers teaching us, let's say, sports, music, art, everything that you have to do physically. So we have accepted that we need teachers and so-called gurus in all our physical world that we live in. But our world does not just end with physical dimension. We are also an intellectual being. We have curiosity. We need to find out. We need to learn. We need to know. So we have an intellectual quest, and that is satisfied by having special subjects that enhance our intellectual abilities. That's why we have maths teachers, maths gurus. We have science teachers. We have teachers for languages. We have teachers for hidden skills of personality development. So in life, we have so easily accepted. If I asked you that all these gurus or teachers, would they be important for a leader? Hands down, you and I would say, yeah, a leader needs to be coached in everything. Professionally, a leader is also taught how to dress, what shoes would fit his clothes or her clothes. So in this whole world, when we have specialists or even experts guiding a leader in everything that he does or she does, in so far as the physical dimension or intellectual dimension is concerned, so we accept that. Then why not a leader needing or having a spiritual guru that takes care of all the spiritual needs? Let me ask you that while we readily accept all our physical and intellectual needs, what about our emotional needs? Do we not get angry? What about emotions like jealousy? What about hurt, hate, revenge? What about the feeling of doing good? What about love, patience, courage? What about all these values and all these emotions that dictate and dominate our world? Many times leaders take decisions not because of their physical limitations or intellectual abilities, but also driven by emotional pulls and pushes. So far as emotional world is concerned, an individual, a student, a human being is completely left free to learn from his failures or her successes. We just bounce around and learn from all the difficult challenges that we face, there are no literal guides. Then what about moral issues and moral questions? Should I or should I not? Should I do wrong or should I do right? Should I cheat? Should I betray? These are all moral questions. Is this good or is this bad? So who guides you and me through all these woods or forests of moral complexities? It's such a difficult situation. And then the deeper invisible issues of a higher reality, supreme being, of connecting to God, or feeling of being protected, or having greater responsibility towards a higher being. What about all these issues? Nobody really worries. Parents cannot guide. Even our teachers fall short. That is the reason that I believe that leaders who have spiritual gurus or spiritual guides that take care of emotional, moral, and spiritual world, which is invisible, which we do not focus upon much, that would make that leader a much stronger and a much powerful, a greater and a stable leader. So of course I believe that good leaders should have spiritual guides and gurus who take them across the complexities of life. In the words of Carl Jung, one of the most famous psychologists, he said, in his decades of treating people from all across the world, from some of the most developed countries, he found that one of the answers to their psychological problems was or would be finding a religious outlook in life. And personally, he said, a man who cured people from depression, who gave them hope, who actually helped people cross the challenges of mental illnesses. Carl Jung himself writes, then in my moments of darkness, I could have wished for nothing more than a real live guru. Someone possessing much greater wisdom, knowledge, and abilities than myself. Someone who could disentangle me from the involuntary creations of my own imaginations. When you are confused, when we are in a moment of darkness, a real life spiritual guru would be able to help us, extricate us from that moment. So of course I believe that even the leaders who are great and perhaps they did not have a guru in their life, but if they had a spiritual guru, they would become even greater leaders.
Wow, what an inspiring answer. Yes, a leader needs a spiritual guru or a guide who can take him across the complexities of life and make him a better leader. Swamiji, our next question is from a student called Kesar. She is asking, how important are faith and prayer for a successful leader?
Human history tells us that faith in God has always evolved, and under no circumstances has it completely dissolved. Right from the caveman to the space age, we have always felt this need of belief in God. But you might find people who might feel and say that they do not need God or prayers are not necessary. I remember in 1992, after the opening of Akshardham in Gandhinagar, two very successful doctors who had come for a special convention in India came for the darshan of His Holiness Pramukh Swami Maharaj. As we were talking to them, suddenly Pramukh Swami asked them that, do you pray to whichever God you believe in, but do you pray daily? Dr. John Monaghan and Dr. Neville Hacker, professional doctors and renowned doctors in their field, both of them smiled to each other and they said that we do not find it necessary to pray. and we do not pray. And they added that, Your Holiness, we believe that the way we are serving people, helping restore health, that itself is the work of God, and that is a prayer to God. Pramukh Swami Maharaj smiled back, and in his gentle, soothing voice, he said, Yes, you should continue to serve people, but at the same time, it would be wise to pray to God. The doctor said, But why should we pray? Swami Shri tried to explain to them that suppose you are performing an operation and it's difficult and it's challenging, and suppose that operation fails, if you have been praying to God, it would stop you going into a depression or feeling low. Both of them said that, but Swamiji, we hardly fail, we never fail, we are always successful. That's when Pramukh Swami added that just as a prayer helps you not to go into a depression if you fail, if you find success after success after success, a prayer to God would keep you humble and not become arrogant. So he said, whether it is success or failure, whether you are the top or at the bottom, whoever you are, in any moment, a genuine prayer will help a human being to remain stable, not become arrogant in success, and not become depressed in failure. Prayer for every leader is essential to keep him balanced, to keep him gentle, compassionate, and a great leader who connects with other people.
Okay, so from this, Swamiji, we learned that when we pray, we are not changing anything from outside, but we are changing within ourselves. And that enhances a leader to be a good leader. Swamiji, let me take the last question from Dr. Praful Vaidya from Bahrain. He's asking that I'm a believer in prayer and God, but I'm not regular, and my faith has become rusty and dusty. Please guide me.
Well, Praful Bhai, you yourself are a great believer and a great devotee. And I'm sure this is not your personal question, but perhaps you have asked this question, which will help everybody else. But such situation happens to each one of us. This is a question that we grapple with. That yes, we believe in God and we pray. But many times we miss out in prayer and our faith begins to flicker. Because of the winds around us, because of the events, the situations, and because sometimes our just sheer laziness or not being aware. But one fact is true, that it's not just enough to believe, we must live. If we truly believe in God, and if you believe there is a God, and you believe that that God is looking after us and we connect to Him, then our faith would hardly flicker. It would never become dusty or rusty. How, you may ask me? That yes, prayer is routine, and what you do routine becomes humdrum, and it becomes monotonous, and it becomes boring. So we would skip through our prayers, or we'll probably omit certain things. But if you really feel that you need a prayer, and if you feel the benefit right into your heart and you feel uplifted and elated, building on your own experience, you will never falter from prayer again. There are so many things we do in life which are routine, monotonous. There are no changes. But the fact that we feel that we need them, you never becomes dusty or rusty. For example, eating. If I ask you, do you have to eat 3 times a day? And just you have morning breakfast is always the same. There are people who have similar things at night every time. Maybe the same fruits, the same grains, the same dishes. but we never tire of eating because we feel we need it. We never tire of drinking water because it's seen as a need. Tell me, who is tired of resting or sleeping? Oh God, we have to rest and sleep every day. You would sleep every day because we feel we need it. And I want to tell you, Pramukh Swami Maharaj often says that in things we have self-interest, we never lose interest. So what really energizes us, what we feel we need, we never really tire of them. And I believe that if we generate that clarity that we need faith, we need prayer, and we create an interest in it, genuine, then our faith will never flicker. Have you ever tired of breathing? Oh, it's the same activity I have to do every 6 times in a minute or 7 times in a minute. But each gasp of breath is the same oxygen, the same air, the same way. But because it gives us life, we never tire of it. So I feel that faith would never flicker if we understand that we need it just as much as we need food, just as much as we need clothes, just as much as we need things and comfortable items, just as much as we need our breath. So if we understand and focus on our true belief and get clarity, then it would be much easier to live by it.
What an answer, Swamiji. A genuine prayer will help you both in your success and in your failure so that you don't become arrogant in your success and don't get depressed in your failures. Thank you, Pranav and Swamiji, for the wonderful Q&A session. It was very insightful. Now, dear friends, let me welcome and introduce the guest of honor, His Excellency Dr. Omar Al Mutanna, who is the CEO of Community Development Authority, Dubai. Since 2008, Dr. Omar Al Mutanna has held the position of CEO of Licensing and Monitoring Sector at the Community Development Authority. Dr. Omar Al Mutanna was also the chief guest at the RAF Foundation ceremony of BAPS Hindu Mandir Abu Dhabi in February 2020. He himself is an enlightened thinker and a conscious leader. I welcome you once again and request Your Excellency, Dr. Omar Al Mutanna, to deliver his keynote speech.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Your Holiness Swami Brahmavihari BAPS Hindu Mandir Abu Dhabi, distinguished guests and spectators from various countries. Today, I'm honored to be here amongst you at the online webinar series hosted by BAPS Hindu Mandir Abu Dhabi. First of all, I would like to express my appreciation for the efforts taken by Swamiji for laying down this webinar platform that serves a framework to support community members globally with unique themes that enables them to progress in their personal and professional life. Furthermore, I would like to commend the inspiring words of Swamiji, who has enlightened us today with his remarkable dialogue on how to lead superconsciously. Leaders set direction, influence, and motivate people to follow that beacon that will guide them to their ultimate goals. However, many people believe that leadership is just confined to bare decision making and consider emotions as a weakness. Those emotions are not a weakness. They are the key factors that drive consciousness in leadership. One of the most notable topics being addressed by Swamiji this evening is leaders who look beyond themselves. And I'm reminded here of the late His Highness Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan. May Allah bless his soul. The founding father of the United Arab Emirates. He was an inspirational and conscious leader who transformed the UAE to a global hub for economic and cultural diversity. He is always remembered as one of the world's most approachable and visionary leaders. He dedicated his entire life for the development of the UAE and the betterment of humanity. The year 2020 was not an ordinary period, and the entire human race had to go through an extraordinary and challenging time. The UAE's combat against the COVID-19 pandemic has particularly been a saga of resilience, endurance, and triumph. This led to the global recognition of the UAE as one of the best prepared countries in the world dealing with the pandemic effectively. The leadership of the UAE not only instills value of perseverance and determination, but also it encourages to think unconventionally and motivates individuals towards peaceful coexistence and tolerance. By nurturing these values, we're able to reinforce our ability to adapt to critical circumstances and provide solutions to the paramount challenge faced by humanity. Not only did the UAE effectively safeguard the health and well-being of its citizens and residents, but it also stands strong in supporting all other nations, encapsulating with that the true essence of conscious leadership. His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, Vice President, Prime Minister of the UAE, ruler of Dubai, said, "The UAE will mark 50 years of nationhood in December 2021, growing from a modest regional trading post to a nation that sent the Arab world's first space mission to Mars. The UAE's development has been truly extraordinary. I look forward to our country achieving greater success and accelerating our progress on the ambitious path set by our founding leaders. Their visions to drive human advancement and create a better world for the future generations continues to inspire us all." The uncertainties in life should not be treated as an impediment, but rather it should be treated as an opportunity for innovation, for switching ways of thinking. Uncertainties drives agility when you're creating solutions. It assists us in embracing the change rather than breaking because of the change. Creating the future cannot stem from rigidity, but it's about being malleable and dynamic. Under the directions of the wise leadership of the United Arab Emirates, the COVID-19 vaccination program is progressing at an impressive pace, reaching over 15 million doses. The year 2021 is more promising, and we are at the brink of going back to normal soon. And of course, celebrating the 50th anniversary of the UAE and welcoming Expo here. As I conclude, I take this opportunity to thank Swamiji for enlightening us with his wise words on leading super consciously. And furthermore, my gratitude goes out to all the volunteers who have worked relentlessly in devising this platform for seamless and continuous communication with the community. Wishing you all success throughout future webinars. Stay safe, stay blessed. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Dr. Omar Al Mutanna, for gracing the webinar today with your presence and by delivering the keynote speech. We truly feel that in the UAE, we are at home because of leaders like you. Now, we will move on to the last part of our wonderful evening. We are all going through a pandemic. BAPS Hindu Mandir since March 2020 has done inspirational work for COVID relief. In response to the second wave, under the inspiration of Pujya Mahant Swami Maharaj, Pujya Brahmavihari Swami Ji of BAPS Hindu Temple in Abu Dhabi has taken concerted efforts to help and provide critical aid to India with the support of the community at large. Brahmavihari Swami Ji has always explained that BAPS is an organization that advocates spiritual values through action. Let's see a short video of the COVID relief work done by BAPS Hindu Mandir in Abu Dhabi.
In 2020, when the world suddenly fell silent, we heard a voice from within us, a voice that echoed in the wisdom of our leaders, a voice that reverberated in the words and prayers of world leaders to save lives and safeguard life as we once loved and lived. That same inner voice was felt in the hearts of one and all who came together to give their all, to help and heal the world. Men and women, young and old, of all ages, of all professions, of all races, religions and regions, of all cultures, communities and countries, united as one in perhaps one of the largest and longest humanitarian efforts in the history of humanity.
Here in the UAE, everyone joined hands to reach out to those in need. Of the many groups and individuals, all of them the real heroes of our time, who have helped without holding back. The story of one such organization has moved me from within. The BAPS Hindu Mandir in Abu Dhabi. The leadership and volunteers left no stone unturned. Yes, they prayed, but persevered more. Yes, they served, but loved more. Yes, they helped, but healed more. I have seen them firsthand for myself, serving in more than many ways. Hundreds of patients were treated and supported. 75,000 hot meals were served and delivered home to home. 450 migrant workers were provided rent and shelter. A team of BAPS volunteers helped coordinate Vande Bharat flight.
Here in Consulate, we have got exceptional support from the BAPS community. So many of their volunteers have associated with us in terms of carrying out these activities of supporting the community and planning these flights.
And also provided air tickets and charity. Masks, sanitizers, and PPE kits were supplied in abundance. They supported nations by upholding health protocols, generating awareness, leading vaccination drives, counseling patients and families, providing emotional and spiritual support. Day and night prayers restored faith. The darker it became, the brighter they serve. When India was struggling to breathe, the BAPS Hindu Mandir, with the generous support from the UAE community, supplied oxygen concentrators, 2,000 oxygen cylinders, an unbroken supply of liquid oxygen, and cryogenic tanks, enough to fill 100,000 oxygen cylinders, a non-stop supply of life-saving oxygen to 400 hospitals and clinics across 95 cities and villages.
But more than names and numbers, life matters more. True service is selfless, charity with a heartbeat, end to end, from the hands of the donors to the hearts of the needy, in just matter of days. Every breath of life, every patient that survived, every family that smiled, reaffirmed our faith in the same inner voice.
saving one life is priceless.
This voice reminds us that life is stronger than death. Hope is healthier than fear. It teaches us that we all have a choice. Yes, we do have a choice. Each one of us has a choice of remembering these times not by death and disease, but by life and love. We can choose to remember the weather by dark clouds and storms that surround us. But we choose to remember the calm and warm sunshine that is around us. Yes, we can choose to mourn the past by what we have lost, but instead we choose to face the future by what we have. Not by what we couldn't do, but by what we can do. Our inner voice tells us that we have the light to redefine the meaning of hope, refine the meaning of harmony. We have the energy to generate more faith in faith. While we know times are tough, we also know we are tougher. But perhaps in times to come, in crises more challenging, before which we humans may be too small and too insignificant, perhaps we may not be much, and perhaps we may not have much, but we know we have each other. Together, we are everything. As one people, one world, we shall prevail. So long as we continue to hear this voice within us, life will always be life. This universal voice of our conscience and the light of hope and harmony continues to guide us to serve life and save our planet. We deeply thank you all for helping us help others.
What a selfless seva done by the volunteers and saints of BAPS Hindu Mandir with the support of the community. We received hundreds of questions and feedback for the last webinar through messages and emails. Each one of these questions were personally answered by Brahmavihari Swamiji via email, telephone calls, or personal meetings. So if you have a question for today's webinar or want to share your feedback, then send us an email at outreach@mandir.ae. You can watch this webinar again or share it with your friends and family by visiting webinar.mandir.ae. Everything that begins must end, and so does today's event. Given a choice, we would have loved to have stayed back and continued our journey of knowledge with Swamiji. Swamiji's words shall be embedded in our hearts and mind when he said, "Superconscious leaders learn from past leaders, seek inspiration from simple minds of present, and are always connected with God." Thank you for your precious time for this valuable session. Dr. Omar Al-Mutanna, our guest of honor, also shared his historic and national project, the construction of the first Hindu temple in the UAE. Lastly, I thank all of you for joining today's event. In a month's time, we will have another inspirational webinar by Brahmavihari Swamiji on the topic Value of Values. Namaste and Jai Swaminarayan.